My wife said, "My family is moving in. If you can't accept that, we're done." I replied, "All right, then we're done." Then, I packed up, moved out of our rental, began again in a small one-bedroom place, and watched as her ultimatum spiraled into a financial disaster for her family. I'm Daniel, 37, and I work as a logistics manager for a regional distribution company in Ohio. I've always been the steady type. I like predictable routines, balanced budgets, and knowing exactly where my money is going. My wife, Melissa, is 34. She works part-time in event planning and full-time in family drama. We've been married 6 years and renting a 3-bedroom townhouse for the last 4. No kids. Just us. At least, that's how it was supposed to stay. Melissa has always been close to her family. Close in the way where daily phone calls are mandatory and minor inconveniences get treated like national emergencies. Her parents have struggled financially for years. Poor planning, inconsistent work, and a tendency to treat credit cards like income. Her younger brother Kyle, 29, has never held a job longer than 8 months. There's always a reason it's someone else's fault. For the first few years of our marriage, I kept boundaries firm. I'd help occasionally. Small loans. Covering a utility bill once. But I made it clear I wasn't becoming the family bailout plan. Melissa would get irritated, but let it go. Until 3 weeks ago, she came home one evening with that look. The one where she's already made a decision and is about to inform me of it. "My parents are losing their house," she said. "Kyle too. They're all moving in with us. It's temporary." I asked how temporary. She waved her hand. "A few months. Maybe 6. We live in a rental. 3 bedrooms. One is our office. The other is barely big enough for guests." I asked how exactly 5 additional adults were going to function in that space. She rolled her eyes and said families make it work. I told her that wasn't happening. Not without a real financial plan, timelines, and rent contributions. I wasn't signing up to fund 3 extra adults indefinitely. That's when she dropped it. "My family is moving in. If you can't accept that, we're done." She said it calmly, confident, like she assumed I would cave. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, "All right. Then we're done." She laughed. I wasn't joking. And that's where things started to get interesting. She honestly thought I was bluffing. Melissa has a habit of using ultimatums as leverage. Not constantly, but strategically. If she wants something badly enough, she frames it as emotional loyalty. You're either with me or against me. Most of the time, it's over small things. Holiday plans. Money sent to her parents. Whether we attend every family birthday like it's mandatory attendance. This time, though, she miscalculated. After I said we're done, she smirked and said, "Don't be dramatic. You know I don't mean it like that." I asked her directly, "So if I say no, your family isn't moving in?" She folded her arms. "They're moving in. I already told them they could." That part caught me off guard. She hadn't asked. She had promised. I asked when. "Next weekend." I remember just staring at her. 5 adults. 8 days notice. In a rental that's not even ours. I asked how much they were contributing financially. She said they'll figure something out once they're back on their feet. That's not a number. She got irritated fast. "You're acting like this is permanent. They're my family. They took care of me my whole life." I didn't argue about loyalty. I stuck to logistics. The rent is $2,400. Utilities average $450. Groceries would double. At minimum. The lease is in both our names. If they damage the property, we're liable. She snapped and said, "You always reduce everything to money." No. I reduce shared living to sustainability. She told me I lack compassion. I told her compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. That's when she repeated it, louder this time. "If you can't accept my family moving in, we're done." I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded. "Then we're done." She walked away expecting me to chase her into the bedroom and negotiate. I didn't. I opened my laptop instead and checked our lease agreement. Breaking it early would cost 2 months' rent. That number didn't scare me. Funding 5 additional adults indefinitely did. By midnight, I had run the math 3 different ways. There was no version of this where it didn't spiral. And the most interesting part? She truly believed I would absorb it. She had no contingency plan for what would happen if I didn't. The next morning, she acted like nothing had shifted. Coffee, phone scrolling, casual tone. I asked one practical question. "Have you told your parents I said no?" She didn't look up. "I told them we're handling it." That wasn't an answer. By lunchtime, her mom called. I know because Melissa put it on speaker without asking me. Her mom's voice already had that desperate edge. "We can be there Saturday, honey. Kyle can bring the air mattress." Saturday. 3 days. Melissa looked at me like I was supposed to confirm it. Like this was just logistics being finalized. I said calmly, that won't be happening. Silence on the line. Her mom asked what that meant. It means we are not able to house 5 additional adults in a rental property. Melissa cut in immediately. We are able. Daniel is just being difficult. There it was. Public framing. I was the obstacle. Her mom shifted tone fast. Guilt, heavy and thick. We do it for you. I didn't engage emotionally. I stuck to numbers. If you move in, how much can you contribute monthly toward rent and utilities? Dead air. Her mom said they'd need time to stabilize first. I asked how long. We'll see. That was the whole plan. We'll see. Kyle jumped in from wherever he was. It's not like we're asking for charity. You are, I said plainly. Melissa shot me a look like I'd just insulted royalty. Her mom said she couldn't believe I was speaking that way to family. I ended the call. Not angrily. Just cleanly. Melissa exploded once the phone disconnected. You embarrassed me. No, I clarified. I asked for a plan. She accused me of being selfish, of caring more about money than people, of lacking loyalty. Then she said something interesting. If you leave over this, don't expect me to beg you back. I told her I wasn't expecting that. By that afternoon, I had toured a 1-bedroom apartment 20 minutes away. Small, clean, affordable, month-to-month lease option. By evening, I had submitted an application. She thought I was trying to scare her. I wasn't. I was removing myself from the blast radius. Because if her family moved in without my income supporting that house, the numbers changed dramatically. And she hadn't done that math yet. I had. 2 days later, my apartment application was approved. I didn't announce it dramatically. I didn't threaten her with it. I just forwarded the lease to my personal email and scheduled a moving truck for Sunday morning. Melissa still believed this was a power struggle she would win. Saturday afternoon, her parents showed up anyway. Not fully moved in. Just scoping. Her dad walked through the townhouse like he was inspecting property he already owned. Her mom started talking about where they could set up a temporary sleeping area in the dining room. Kyle tested the couch cushions like he was measuring comfort. I stood in the doorway and let the scene play out for about 5 minutes. Then I asked again, what is the monthly financial contribution plan? Her dad laughed. Son, we're family. We're not tenants. Exactly, I said. Melissa pulled me aside and hissed that I was humiliating her. No, I said. I'm being clear. Her mom started unpacking a box. Not many things. Just enough to signal assumption. That's when I said it plainly. I signed a lease this morning. I'm moving out tomorrow. Everything stopped. Melissa stared at me like I had slapped her. You're choosing an apartment over your marriage. No, I replied evenly. I'm choosing sustainability over chaos. Her dad scoffed and said I was overreacting. I handed Melissa a printed copy of the lease break clause. 2 months penalty. I told her I would pay my half and transfer the rest of the remaining lease to her if she wanted to stay. Her eyes widened. You're serious? Yes. Kyle muttered something about me being uptight. I ignored it. I told Melissa something simple. If you want them here, that's your decision. But it won't be under my financial responsibility. Her dad tried one last angle. You're abandoning your wife when she needs you. I answered calmly. I'm stepping aside from a decision I didn't agree to. Sunday morning, I packed my essentials. Bed, desk, clothes. Nothing dramatic. No shouting. Melissa didn't try to stop me. She kept saying you'll regret this. I didn't respond. By 2 p.m., I was in a 650 square foot 1-bedroom. Quiet. Cheap. Mine. That evening, I got a text from her. They're moving in tomorrow. I replied once. Understood. Then I turned off my phone. Because now the math would start without me. And math doesn't negotiate. The first week in the 1-bedroom felt strange. Not lonely. Just quiet. I had a mattress on the floor, a folding table for my laptop, and a coffee maker on the counter. No dining room arguments. No background phone calls filled with crisis updates. No tension. On Wednesday, I checked our shared bank account. The rent for the townhouse had posted. Melissa hadn't transferred her half yet. I didn't text her immediately. I waited. By Friday, nothing. I sent one message. Rent is due. I've transferred my portion plus the lease break fee installment. Please handle the remainder. Her response came fast. Things are tight right now. That was quick. 5 adults now living in that rental. Utilities already climbing. Grocery bills doubled. Her parents hadn't found work yet. Kyle, according to what little I'd heard, was exploring options. I replied simply, I won't be covering additional costs. She fired back. You left me with this mess. No. I opted out before it became mine. Saturday evening, She called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her dad's truck had broken down. They needed money for repairs, or he couldn't get to job interviews. Could I help just this once? The phrase just this once tends to repeat itself. I didn't respond. Monday morning, I received an email from our landlord addressed to both of us. Noise complaints, parking violations, extra vehicles exceeding lease terms, 3 cars, 1 truck, guests overnight. That lease had strict occupancy rules. I forwarded the email to Melissa and asked one question. Are you aware you're violating occupancy limits? She replied an hour later. Stop acting like my enemy. I wasn't acting like anything. I was documenting. By week 2, she sent another message. Can we talk about the lease? We might not be able to afford it. There it was. The math. Without my full income, the rental was unsustainable. Her part-time event job wasn't covering 5 adults and increased utilities. I asked directly, what is the monthly contribution from your parents? Silence. Kyle had picked up 2 shifts at a bar. Temporary. Her dad had applied to places. Pending. Her mom was figuring something out, which meant nothing concrete. I sat at my folding table in my small apartment and ran the numbers again. It was collapsing exactly as projected. And the most interesting part? She had framed my departure as abandonment. But if I had stayed, the collapse would have just taken longer and cost me more. By week 3, the landlord sent a formal notice. Unauthorized occupants. 30 days to correct the violation or the lease would be terminated. Melissa forwarded it to me with one line. This is because you left. I read that twice. No, this is because 5 adults are living in a space designed for 2. She called that night. Not angry this time. Strained. The landlord says we have to either remove occupants or reapply with updated income verification. That part mattered. Updated income verification, which meant proof of earnings for everyone living there. I asked calmly, does your dad have a current pay stub? No. Kyle. He just started at the bar. It's part-time. Your mom. She's looking. There it was again. Looking. The townhouse required combined income at least 3 times the rent. That was standard. With me gone, Melissa alone didn't qualify. With 3 unemployed adults added, they definitely didn't. I told her what the landlord would likely do. Either demand they leave or move toward eviction. She snapped. You're enjoying this. I wasn't. I was detached. There's a difference. 2 days later, she texted again. We're short on rent. Can you cover 1 more month while we figure this out? No. Just no. She tried another angle. You promised to support me in marriage. I did. Not to underwrite decisions I didn't agree to. The next week, I received another email from the landlord. Rent partially unpaid. Late fees applied. That's when I called my attorney, because my name was still on that lease. We reviewed options. I had already paid my portion plus the lease break installment. My liability was limited if they defaulted after formal notice. Melissa had chosen to remain, and now the spiral had real numbers attached to it. By the end of the month, I drove past the townhouse once. Not to check on her. Just habit. 3 cars crammed into the driveway. Extra trash bags piled near the garage. A couch visible through the front window, not ours. The math wasn't theoretical anymore. It was visible. And the most telling part? She still hadn't apologized. She just kept asking for more time. Time doesn't pay rent. Income does. And neither had increased. By the end of the 2nd month, I stopped waiting for her to reverse course. The landlord issued a second notice. Rent still short. Occupancy still in violation. Late fees stacking. My attorney laid it out clearly. You are legally separated in practice. If reconciliation is not your goal, file now before financial damage compounds. That sentence settled it. I filed for divorce the following Tuesday. No dramatic confrontation. No announcement text. Just paperwork. Irreconcilable differences. I didn't inform her beforehand. She found out when she was served. She called immediately. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail that oscillated between anger and disbelief. You're filing because my family needed help. No. I filed because your solution to help them required sacrificing our stability without consent. She sent a long message later that night. You could have stayed and helped us manage it. Instead, you ran. That part almost made me respond emotionally. But I didn't. Managing chaos is not the same as preventing it. The next day, she emailed asking if I was serious. I replied once. Yes. All communication should go through counsel moving forward. The tone shifted quickly after that. First panic, then bargaining. She asked if we could pause the filing until things stabilized with the lease. That confirmed what I already knew. This wasn't about marriage anymore. It was about financial containment. 3 days later, the landlord began formal eviction proceedings. Not immediately forced out, but official. I wasn't surprised. 5 adults. Insufficient income. Repeated violations. Math doesn't care about ultimatums. A mutual friend told me Kyle quit the bar job after 2 weeks. Said it wasn't a good fit. Her dad's truck still wasn't repaired. Her mom had started talking about applying for assistance programs. Meanwhile, I was in a small, clean apartment with one utility bill and predictable expenses. Not glamorous, just sustainable. Melissa sent one last message before her attorney formally stepped in. You destroyed our marriage over pride. I didn't answer. Because pride didn't break it. Assumption did. She assumed I would fund whatever decision she made. When that assumption collapsed, so did the plan. And now the consequences were running their course without me cushioning them. I didn't feel victorious. Just certain. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone else's financial self-destruction, even if they call it abandonment. The eviction notice was finalized 2 weeks after I filed. Not immediate removal, but a court date set. Formal. Public record. Melissa's attorney contacted mine requesting mediation before the hearing. Not about reconciliation. About financial liability tied to the lease. That told me everything. Her family still hadn't secured stable income. The landlord had refused to re-qualify the household. Too many adults. Not enough documented earnings. During mediation, she looked exhausted. Not angry anymore. Just worn down. She opened with this. If you hadn't left, we wouldn't be here. I kept my voice level. If I had stayed, we would still be here. Just later. And with my credit damaged too. Her dad had managed to get temporary warehouse work. Kyle was back at home during the day. Her mom had started part-time cleaning jobs. Combined, they still didn't meet the income requirement for the rental. The landlord had offered one option. Vacate voluntarily and avoid full eviction on record. They had 10 days. Melissa asked if I would co-sign a new rental so they could move somewhere larger together. I almost thought she was joking. No, she pressed. You're divorcing me anyway. Why not help one last time? Because helping once becomes helping again. She shifted to accusation. You're punishing my family. I corrected her calmly. I removed myself from financing them. Those are different things. By the end of mediation, the divorce terms were nearly finalized. Clean separation. No shared assets beyond minimal household items. No spousal support. Each party responsible for personal debts incurred after separation. That clause mattered, because by then, credit card balances in her name had increased sharply. Security deposits. Moving expenses. Utility reconnect fees. I signed my portion. 3 days later, I drove past the townhouse again. The driveway was empty. A week after that, I heard through a friend that they had moved into a smaller duplex 2 towns over. 4 adults in 2 bedrooms. Kyle on the couch again. Melissa had picked up more event shifts. Her parents were arguing constantly about money. The ultimatum that was supposed to prove loyalty had turned into a logistical grind. Meanwhile, my divorce finalized quietly. No courtroom drama. Just signatures. I walked out of the courthouse lighter than I walked in. Not because her situation spiraled, but because I wasn't carrying it anymore. It's been about 4 months since I moved out. The divorce is finalized. The lease on the townhouse officially terminated after they vacated. My credit stayed intact. That alone was worth every uncomfortable conversation. A mutual friend ran into Melissa recently and filled me in without me asking. The duplex situation didn't last. 4 adults in 2 bedrooms sounds manageable on paper. In practice, it's pressure, constant noise, shared bathrooms, shared expenses that still didn't add up. Her dad's warehouse job cut hours. Kyle lost his couch space after an argument and moved in with a friend. Her mom picked up more cleaning shifts but was exhausted. Tension turned into blame quickly. Apparently, Melissa and her parents started arguing about expectations. Her dad said she promised stability. Her mom said Daniel never would have let it get this bad. That part almost made me laugh. I didn't let it get that bad. That was the point. Melissa eventually rented a studio on her own. Smaller than my 1 bedroom. Higher rent than she expected. Event planning income fluctuates seasonally. She's working more now than she ever did while we were married. Last week, she sent one final message through a mutual friend. Not hostile. Not dramatic. She said she didn't think I would actually leave. She thought I'd cool off. That I'd prioritize the marriage over the logistics. That sentence sums it up. She believed loyalty meant absorbing consequences without limits. I believed loyalty required agreement. We were operating on different definitions. From what I've heard, her parents are talking about relocating to stay with a relative out of state. Kyle is bouncing between short-term gigs again. The financial disaster she thought we could figure out later arrived exactly on schedule. And here's the part that matters. If I had stayed, the ending would look the same. The only difference is my savings account would be lighter and my credit score lower. Instead, I live in a small place I can fully afford. My expenses are predictable. My peace is measurable. No ultimatums. No emergency family summits at the dinner table. Just quiet. And quiet doesn't demand anything from me. A few weeks ago, I ran into Melissa unexpectedly at a grocery store. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just aisle 7. She looked thinner. Tired. Not in a tragic way. Just worn down by constant adjustment. When your life runs on emergency mode long enough, it shows. We stood there awkwardly for a moment before she spoke. I didn't think it would get that bad. I nodded once. That was always the gap between us. I ran projections. She ran hope. She told me her parents were planning to move in with an aunt 2 states away. Kyle was figuring things out, which I've learned usually means not much has changed. She's working nearly full-time now, juggling events, picking up freelance coordination gigs. The studio she rented barely fits her bed and a desk. She didn't blame me. Not directly, but she did say something telling. I thought marriage meant standing together no matter what. I answered carefully. Standing together requires agreeing on where you're standing. She didn't argue with that. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. If I had asked instead of told you, would you have stayed? I thought about it honestly. If there had been a written plan, timelines, financial contributions, clear boundaries, maybe. But that wasn't what happened. You gave me an ultimatum, I said, and I accepted it. She gave a small, tired smile. I really thought you'd fold. That was the assumption that cost her the most. Because when someone builds a plan on the belief that you'll absorb it, they rarely prepare for the alternative. We said goodbye without hostility. Driving home, I realized something that's easy to miss in stories like this. I didn't win. She didn't lose. But her ultimatum forced reality to surface faster. If 5 adults with unstable income were going to collapse under shared expenses, it was going to happen whether I was there or not. The difference is I chose not to fund the lesson. Now I live in a slightly larger apartment than the first one. Still modest. Still quiet. My savings have recovered. My credit is clean. My stress level is measurable and low. And I've learned something simple. When someone says, accept this or we're done, they're assuming you're afraid of being done. Sometimes the most stable decision you can make is agreeing.